Incremental routines. So this is a kind of a reaction video from Wozniak. Yesterday he published a video how to refactor text using incremental writing in SuperMemo. It's quite long, it's about half an hour. By the way, now he has manual captions, good touch. And most of the comments are mine. More or less my 2 cents while watching the video. So what I'm going to do, here I have more or less what I'm going to talk. It's not react to the entire video. So I play the video and then provide my 2 cents. No. I want to increase the quality. So since I have already seen it, it's not blind, I'm going to cherry pick something that I consider it's worth. I'm going to only show that section of the video, if that. So first, feel free to watch the video, by the way. Then you will see that in his video, he creates a brand new collection. And then in this case, for refactors, because he has different, which it's something common in SuperMemo, in the documentation, that you have a documentation of a factor in the guru, in the help, and different pages. And it's not exactly the same, usually because it's older, or has been in parallel, the other more incremental, whatever. So first, he creates a brand new collection. Because of that, he can neglect priorities. And also for the second factor, not the A factor, by the way, that it's very short. That I already know to do this, pam, 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 and I can do it, I know, in 1 hour. I don't know how much time he spent in real. Let's say 2 hours, but I do it in 2 days. So I can neglect priorities because, as you may see him, he cherry picks the in the knowledge tree. He clicks manually, pam, pam, pam. So in that case, you can neglect priorities. But if your flow is incremental, so you will have a lot of interruptions across, perhaps you spend 2 hours overall, but across 2 months instead, then you will want to use priorities. You're not going to cherry pick in the knowledge tree. Big important nuances here. And then in 348, so in 349, he is doing a lot of extracts. You will see one extract, the second, the third, the fourth, and so on. But if we take a look at the priority. Now it's quite high, quite hard to see. It's the 11th position. Since it's a very small collection, instead of the percentage, we can take a look at the position. Do you see? It's 8, 9, 10, 11. So after each consecutive extraction, the priority actually decreases. In his case, that is not mostly illustrative, because this position shift can be just because of the new element. Because his collection just have 40 elements. If I do an extract, now has 41. I increase the size of the collection by 2% in one action. But if I do it in my own collection, let's say here, now let me change the priority. So it's 80. Let's put 50, the exact middle. You see it's 32,411. Okay. If I do an extract, boom. Do you see now it's a slightly higher priority, not lower? How on earth is possible that he gets a lower priority? But there are so few elements that, hey, we have a new element that represents 2% of the collection already. We have only 40 places. So each element is taking 2.5, I think, if I'm doing the math correctly. So imagine, I said 2%, it's 2.5%. If I do it again, you will see even more. So if you have this flow, keep in mind that the priorities will change, even if I hand-shade it myself. This is especially true if you do it like non-incremental, until you're done. So imagine I have done this, and again, and again, and again, and again. Let me actually do it. So I start at 50, 49, 48.5. Imagine. So I already moved more than 1,000 positions on the priority queue. So if you want to use incremental writing with priorities because you want to take it incremental, keep in mind that once you bypass incrementalism, you'll have this effect. And it may sound like, hey, just 1,000 positions or 1.5% of the collection. Yeah, but if the collection has in the thousands or hundreds of thousands, that is a big deal. Especially if it's not you who changes the priority explicitly. Then, another thing is that Piotr always says, when he is rewriting, that it's not just items and topics. It's also tasks and concepts. Basically, every single element in incremental reading in SuperMemo has a factor. That is true. Usually tasks are not used at all unless you're a very hardcore and old school user of SuperMemo. Not even me now. Or concepts. Why? Because usually when you create a concept, Control K. Do you see? It's not dismissed. It's orange. So this has an A factor. Because at the end of the day, it's like a topic or a task. It has some extra functionalities from a topic, but it's like a superset of a topic. But usually, when you create concepts, especially if you do it from here, concept registry, and I add a new concept group, you will see that the concept group is dismissed already. So it has an A factor, yeah, 1.2, which is the default, but it's never actually used because it's dismissed already. That's why, to simplify, whenever in the documentation they say topics, it's very likely it's topics, tasks, and memorized concepts. If you go to the settings, some stats that you can split, like here, items and topics. Sometimes it says topics, sometimes it says topics dash tasks. It's more precise, sometimes it's not. So have this in mind. Then, related to this, 522, let's go there. So what happened here? That previously he added all of everything in the outstanding queue, forcefully, because he imported this the same day. In SuperMemo, the minimum interval is 1 day, so instead of waiting, you can, one of the options, not the only one, is to add to the outstanding, and then you follow the outstanding queue. But then he bypasses the outstanding queue and cherry picks. Keep in mind that if you do this, it doesn't count as a repetition. Strictly speaking, if I go to SuperMemo, now I have manually went here. So how many repetitions I have done? None. I had the automatic repetition. So how comes I did several extras and so on? It's because I didn't click on learn, or I didn't force a subset review or whatever. For SuperMemo, that is not counting as a repetition, meaning that if I'm done, and I apply done, like I will do now, how many repetitions I have done? None. I had the when you import and the future that now is dismissed. So this article has never had a repetition. Same here. I just did during this video, I did this extract. How many repetitions I have? None. In this case, it's the topic and I have the future. If now I apply done, because now this is no longer relevant, in this case, well, usually I will have deleted the element because it's childless. But I wanted to check. What happens? 0 repetitions. 0 reps. Okay, now we can delete it. Next, what happens with all left and all right? So now, if I want to go all left, I don't go to the last element because I have deleted it. So therefore, I go to the parent. It was the next one, the second next one. So if one element in the queue is lost because it has been deleted, go to the next one. Okay. Then, let me go back. By the way, I can see everything, the last 100, by the way. If you go by view, other, and history, so I have the concept, the concept that I did, the new concept that I did from the registry, exporting, all of this. So if I go all left, are the concepts you see in the ancestors window. You will see the concepts, okay? The new group, this one, and the exporting. You also see it here, up here. Nice. It's precisely what I did. Let me go back. Nice. What happens that now, if I do a close deletion, it will be dummy. If I do a left, hey, I have the flashcard now. And it stays the same if I do an extract instead. If I do an extract, all left, now I have the extract. So have this in mind. When you do this navigation, you go to the most recent visited element, but this includes an element you haven't visited but created. So when you create an element by close deletion or by extracting or duplicating, is not limited to this flow, but to simplify, you generate something that creates another element, but the focus remains on the same element. When you go all left, you will see that element that has been created. So if you want to visit the latest, the most recent, you'll need to do it twice. And in this case, 3 times, because I created one close deletion and one extract, back to back. It's a detail. The priorities, we also don't put the priorities. Nice. Another thing that I mentioned is just when he imports, in this case, he imports from different wikis, he has a factor, a factor, a factor, the same title. Then he has a factor SuperMemo and another parameter SuperMemo help. Those are unique. But he has 3 times at the very least a factor. So in this case, because it's very limited, very to the point, non-incremental, not a big deal, because you will click extra can apply done. But if you go to the incremental route instead, you may want to ensure unique titles. Or you'll need to click, hey, this is a factor? Oh yeah, that's from the guru. Or this is a factor is from the help. Or this is a factor is from the other website, the org.com or whatever. So if that is important for you, you have this case. I will add in parentheses the guru and so on, because you have to see this during months or weeks. And you will forget, and you will save your time clicking every time and checking that. And remember, if you check this item, this element, or this element, when you go left, you will revisit those. So you're adding dummy elements in the queue if you have this flow of alt, left, and right. Again, there are details, but are something to take into account. That I will do a video about that, but to simplify, is he just searches for 5, and he was surprised that he had a lot of hits. Why on earth I have thousands of hits? Do I have so many topics and elements that use the number 5? It's absurd, right? Look at that, 10,000, 11,000, 12. Something is wrong. It's because SuperMemo, when you do these search, is also using the references for whatever reason. For instance, I have mushroom. And why mushroom? Could be that there's a 5. Let me actually look for this. Finding article 5. Okay, in this case happens. But you could do it. If I go visit the last browser, only for items will be easy. It's possible that I have 7,000 elements which have number 5 on them. Look at this. Is that a 5? No. Why on earth, if I look for a 5, I'm getting this? Take a look at the reference. It says April 2025. Could be also the time and so on. Meaning that if I search 2025, guaranteed I will have everything that I have imported this year has been imported in 2025. So if you put 2, you will get all of the elements, topics, tasks, concepts, and items, which the reference has a date or a time with this number, which makes it really inefficient. In case it's an item, what you will do instead in the subset, you will want to search for titles. Keep in mind the title is part of the question, the first element. Here you go. There's one. So here is genuine. Oh my god. Nobody intended this part of this video. Oh my god. It's actually, oh my god, is a very real example. So it's just at this point I'm explaining. But could be the case that sometimes I have that it's you ask for a year and so on, or what happened that year, or there's a date, a datum that is from this year, an article, but it's kind of outdated, this information, so you want to guarantee that and so on, you may have that. And last but not least, is that he applied done on the browser. So now I have two that I can apply it on, right? So what I could do instead is apply done now, or open this on the browser, and if I do now the key binding, it still works. Why? The key binding, keep in mind, is not in the element window, it's in the browser window. So not all of the key bindings are universal, that works in every single window. They only work in a specific window, only in the element window, and so on. So you will need to press escape to focus the element window. Happens, this works as well. You can apply done, but wait a second. I didn't apply done to the first one, but the second, because it's the one you have selected. So you may think, hey, I'm going to apply done, and you have another one selected. You're applying done to something unrelated, something you didn't want to. So I suggest to always apply done on the element window instead. That has been more or less all of the tiny details in the video that Piotr Wozniak takes for granted, doesn't explain, and so on. I didn't mention more about the incremental reading flow, or specifically about the A factor, because the A factor is as a content. The example is not about the topic of the video, even though in my course I will cover the A factor. That's all for now. See you incrementally.